Okay, so now let's graph some of these intersections and unions using the set builder stuff instead of just listing out the pieces. So for example, x such that x is greater than or equal to 0 intersected with x such that x is less than or equal to 5. Remember that we have the intersection here. It's like an upside down bucket, so it's going to only keep the stuff in common. It dumps out the rest. To do this, since it doesn't say what element x comes out of, we're going to assume that they both are out of the real numbers. So we'll assume that we can use the number line. And since we're graphing it, that also helps. So I'll say 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Actually, I'll go a little further just for this example. 7, 8. Okay, so we have something like that. And to find what's in common, you can put them on separate number lines and see what's in common, or you can do it on the same number line. I'm going to use different colors so that hopefully you can see better the part that we're keeping. So first, let's look at this part. X greater than or equal to 0. Well, we already know that if equal is part of it, so if we're greater than or equal or less than or equal, we can use a closed circle, right? Or we can use these brackets. I'm going to use the brackets since that's what the author uses. So go to 0 now. We know we're going to shade this way, by the way, to the right, because we're looking bigger than 0, and also because when x is written to the left, it really does just kind of point. See the arrow there? So I'm going to 0. I'm using my bracket symbol. And this thing goes forever. I'll make it really long, so I want to make sure you guys can see what we're going to talk about here in a second. So forever, you don't have to color it this long if you don't want, but the idea is it's going forever, and there's my arrow showing it. That's what the first one represents. Now for the second one, we have x less than or equal to 5. So once again, we're using the closed dot and the bracket, either one. I'm going to go to 5. This time, though, we're shading to the left, because when we went to 5, we wanted stuff smaller than it. So that's this way on the number line. Remember, to the left gets smaller. So we have this, and this one talks about everything to the left, like that. So since we have an intersection and we want this stuff in common, you look at where they overlap. You only keep this part here in the center. You only keep the overlap. That's where they match. Their solutions, or what they're representing, matches. So in other words, the answer for this one, if you were just going to write the part that it's representing, is between 0 and 5. That's where they overlap. You color in the middle. Let's modify this problem only slightly and see what the difference would be. So I'm going to keep the same problem versus x such that x is greater than or equal to 0 union x such that x is less than or equal to 5. So same problem, but a different symbol here. This one's the union. So in this one, I keep everything. You put everything in the basket, remember? So first, let's look and see what we've got. Because we're going to take everything from this group and put it in the basket, and everything from this group and put it in the basket. So again, you graph it the same way as your other one when you start off. We'll look at x greater than or equal to 0. I guess I should make the number line. Number line. equal to 0. We did this a second ago. We'll go to 0. Put our little bracket, and we'll color. And again, you can make that line shorter if you want. I'm just making it long to make sure you guys can see what's going on here. Okay, so we have that, right? That's the first one. That was graphing only this part. Now let's graph just this part in blue, just the x less than 5 in blue. So I go to 5, got my bracket, less than 5, well that's everything this way. At first you ignore the other picture that you're overlapping it with. Okay, so I colored both directions. So what is everything? I mean, the blue stuff, that was everything this way, right? And the green stuff was everything starting at 0 going up this way. So actually in this case, it's the entire number line. Your answer is actually all the reals. Forever, both directions. That's what you got. So the whole number line is your answer. The whole number line. Or you could have said it was all the reals, because it happened that they went both ways. Let's look at one more example. Graph x such that x is less than -1 unioned with x such that x is greater than 3. Okay. And now we have x less than -1. Remember, for the less than and greater than, we use open circles if you want, or we use parentheses. Either one. Again, I'll go with what the author does. I'm going to use parentheses. So at -1, we can see that we're supposed to shade this way. Less than x, or you can think of an arrow pointing to the left. So -1, not included, so I'm going to use a parenthesis. Same thing as an open circle again. And going this way. Then the other part was x bigger than 3. So once again, you shade to the right, going to 3. And for the union, that means everything, right? So the answer for this one is both the green and blue. It's not the entire number line like the other one. It's only this part and this part. This part's not the answer, only the combined parts that were colored. So what I've got here is the answer, the blue part and the green part. What if I had changed it? What if it had been the intersection? That would have meant only the stuff in common, right? How would that have changed the answer? Well, as far as graphing them initially, you would have gotten the same thing. But since you're not keeping both the regions, you're only looking for where they overlap. Notice, guys, they don't overlap. This one starts way down here and goes, and this one starts up here and goes. There's no overlap. So the answer for this one is either an empty set, or you could put your null, or you could just say nothing. However you want to word it. The idea is there's no pieces, there's no number section on this picture that overlaps.